So I do want to talk about the individuals we have on both of these teams and how they stack up against one another. Starting with ENCE here. We know that they do enjoy like Genji. They've been showing us a lot of that. How many different looks will they bust out going up against SSG?
I think the Genji is going to be pretty consistent, but I think what you really want to highlight for ENCE is the tank swaps, whether they're Pistola or Chase plays. I think they like to play Chase on more of those high ground-centric maps like the Gibraltar we've seen before. I think the ideal thought amongst most pro teams is that Winston is better, but D.Va is more of a consistent hero for most rosters, so I think that's a big thing to look out for ENCE. And
then, of course, we've seen plenty of that in action already. Do you prefer one particular look from them over another?
I mean, obviously depending on the map, but I prefer to see Chase on the Winston. It's a comfort hero for him. But as you see, like Pistola is also, he's also a very strong. He's been here since the start of the roster essentially. Very good at D.Va as well. So I really there's no right or wrong answer. I think for ENCE, it'll kind of just depend on whether they can adapt to what SSG is doing.
Yeah, and SSG has also showed us some different look, of course, with the addition of KSA. They've really rounded out their roster. We know how much they can get done, but mostly what we've seen from them in the last 2 days was, of course, very Mei-centric, with Backbone playing arguably his best hero.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Mei everywhere, even if it's Gibraltar or picks like that.
Doesn't even matter.
They prefer to pull out the Mei, and also a few different looks, right? But this has been Spacestation doing what they do best. This is a really good meta for them. They got great communication, great way to use these abilities, right? And that's kind of like how they like to play. And so this meta is really good for them. And the fact that Backbone can play this Mei, they can set up these kind of like win conditions in fights. They can set up the fights appropriately, fight how they want, right? So I think it's going to be the question for ENCE. Like, how do you play around the Mei? Like, can you bait out these ice walls, the ice blocks? When the Mei has committed the ice block, Mei becomes a pretty good target. You can finish off if you run over with your Orisa and the Genji, of course. And so it's going to be a clash of styles where you see Spacestation playing more of the Mei and Kevster, of course, playing more of the Genji. But Kevster can also play the Mei and the Pharah if he wishes to.
There might be some other interesting looks they can throw at us. We got a sneak peek there from Hadi. I believe it was just yesterday. They run out with that Maga Sim strat. How do you feel about that one, and how will we see it today?
Well, got a bit of a tally for you, showcasing how this kind of started. Obviously, we had, stage 1, Mauga meta, all that stuff. But, we did see the Mauga come into play over at OWCS Asia between Team Falcons and Crazy Raccoon. You got all the legends here. Proper Stalker, Hambin Fielder. You can go ahead and play it out, of course. So Crazy Raccoon, they roll out with the Mauga and the Sim here on New Junk City first point. Really effective points to get close to your opponent. And Falcons recognize they have to kite accordingly. You know that this engage is going to come through with the Mauga and the Symmetra. And the Symmetra deals so much damage to the Orisa. It is so effective with the Cardiac Overdrive. It's a really strong power spike early in fights, and you have to be able to kite it through. They don't, though. You get the stomp on top of Hanbin. And I mean, this is the saddest thing I've ever watched in my life. That is so sad. That is so sad. So here you go. Crazy Raccoon, they brought it out this past weekend in OWCS Asia, of course. And now, yesterday, we saw SSG. They did the same thing. They brought it out. So we can go ahead and play this clip out, actually, and we can go and see them, their approach to this kind of composition. They're trying to, of course, focus a lot on Rajaro. The spear spin has been used, and they're going for a similar kind of engage here. We can go ahead and pause it. You play it a few more frames forward, Go ahead and go forward a little bit more, and we can actually see here. Do I have my enhanced highlight circle? Here we go. So you can actually see that the Symmetra and the Mauga in this scenario, they're trying to block off the doorway so they can trap the Orisa in a similar kind of position that we saw in OWCS Asia. Now in this scenario, we can play it out. Rajaro escapes the other door, actually, in this building. And they kind of kite this out, right? The Cardiac Overdrive is going to come in from Hadi as well, put some more focus on. But it just kind of like, it falls apart. Sana finds a pick on the Sparker, and it's not going to work out in this first fight. So they kept at it, though, and this is a different point entirely, right? Now we're actually engaging on top of the point. We got the Symmetra Teleporter, and we can go ahead and pause here, actually, first, because, crucially now, you're playing around the point, right? So if you decide to kite away from this huge power spike window, that means that SSG, they're going to get the cap similar to SRP Check playing the runner composition, and so this becomes crucial in trying to establish positioning for these fights with the Mauga. We can play it out. Similarly here, Hadi gets the stomp on top of the Orisa this time around, and the Symmetra. Just look at the work we're dealing to the Orisa. Like, they hate Rajaro. Like, I feel so bad for this Orisa. But this is basically the strat, right? Really early power spike. It is so strong with the Cardiac Overdrive. Rally in this case as well to really prolong it. And there you go. This might be something we see more of. They pull it out on Gibraltar as well. So it's going to be on top for ENCE then. How do we kite around this power spike, and how do we work around it? Because it might be something we see more of, considering how much trouble it does to Orisa.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to be very interested to see how the Preds going to shape up for this one. Given that we've seen different looks, we don't know entirely how they're going to stack up against one another. We haven't seen them play each other. That's my camera. Hello. In a little bit. But I went with SSG. I actually have to look it up. Yes, I was very confident that we went with SSG. I do think, or do hope, this is going to be a close one. I do love that we have a clash of styles. We know that both of these teams have what it takes to adapt. The DPS department, now also the tanks, they have versatility, they have the depth that you require to show us different looks. So I hope this is going to be a close one. SSG on top, though.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And I think the big difference for me is that SSG is going to have more of a capability to adapt and overcome with different compositions that we saw from Johnny. They're playing the Maga Sim. And they also have just more of a structure behind them. They have their coaching staff. They have Chris, who's been with that core roster for years now at this point. And ENCE has lost both their coaches. They lost Gumba earlier in the year, and then they lost Crimzo. So they just don't have as much structure and as much support. And I think that's going to edge SSG out over ENCE.
I believe I picked ENCE in this one, which is pretty crucial, I remember. Yeah, I actually picked ENCE 3-2 in this one, because I do think to some extent, Kevster's flexibility playing the Genji and the Pharah, I do think it can come in handy on some of these maps, right? Especially, you know, SSG, are they going to adapt accordingly, like subs between Hadi and KSA? But also, I think the Genji is so powerful, especially with the Ray, of course, the Terra Surges. And I think it's going to be on Vestola, to play the Orisa quite well here, actually, to kite around the Mei. You know, when the Blizzard comes out, or you're going to use your Terra Surge defensively, maybe protect that positioning of yours. It's going to be a really interesting matchup, but I favor Kevster's Genji in this one.
You said it with a lot of confidence, even when I stopped putting the kippers on the table to know what's on the line.
That is some Swedish pickled herring right there. I'll eat that up.
So it's actually not a punishment for you.
So,
is that what I'm hearing?
So you're volunteering to eat it, is what I'm hearing.
What is that called when like you force your brain to change, like neuroplasticity or something? Like I'm forcing myself to like that. Like every day I'm like, I'm gonna like that. I'm gonna like that. And eventually when I have it, I'm gonna like it.
He's manifesting the change of taste buds. You know
I am
what?
smarter than math, I can guarantee that.
I can respect that. Let's see. We're all hoping for a close game. Both teams have what it takes to give us just that. This is the upper bracket finals. So of course we're gonna send it over to Matt and Mitch. How are you guys seeing this one shaking out?
Matt, do you want to respond to that real quickly? I know you pulled a face, then we'll get on to the game.
I mean, he thought, you know, California was inside of Sweden yesterday, so I don't even know if there's any real response.
You didn't know what an Inu is, so I feel like you need to sit very quietly.
Yeah, most people probably don't. I mean,
most people,
you know, that's something.
Everyone actually does.
Did McGravy know?
I think McGravy probably knew what an Inu was.
Little mush, you know? I mean, I heard the dog in the background. You should know about it too, man.
little, you know, with the little mush, you know? That's your rapping name, bro. Little mush.
Little mush.
Yeah. Oh, God,
yeah.
I can't.
It's all right. We're in this together, Caleb. We're in this together.
Matt is trying to find allies, and they are rapidly running into short supply. Let's talk about this matchup, though, because it feels...
They killed off Jake. He was my only ally. They wrote him off the season finale.
Think that, yeah, the allyship, you might have read a bit too far into that. I think when it comes down to it, Jake's all for himself, mate. But here, let's talk about this, because we actually have two SSG Preds on the desk, and I think, look, our experts are really appealing to the range of this SSG team right now. I think their May comps are really good. I do think that at least the Kevster factor was mentioned. Will he have to, rather, carry this team out of this game, kicking and screaming? Lack of coach also is interesting. I brought it up before, but Kellex said in an interview with like Commander X, like in the lead up to this, he's like, yeah, sometimes it's actually kind of hard to solve any disputes because we don't have a mediator or like a final word. We just kind of, one side just kind of compromises and then we just go from there. So hopefully we don't run into any of those kind of disputes throughout this game, but you know, this team has done well, very well, without a coach thus far. There's no reason they can't continue to do so. Whereas SSG, we know they have some power in the coaching booth.
Well, I think SSG obviously adding KSA is like a huge addition to the team, right? As they'll come out with the May that they were running the other day. We saw them do to a high level. I think this will be kind of the real battle, right? Is can they make good use out of this May if there's going to be that Pharah or Genji or something on the other side, right? As you know, Kevster can play so many of these high impact heroes that at least off the start going to go with the Pharah.
So it's been Vestola and Chase both on that role in the past, but yeah, the Orisa, of course, for ENCE. Kevster getting picked up by Funny Astro, though. Not a great sign. Pressure also from Sparker mounting on any of those more airborne heroes. And this forces ENCE awkwardly to try and disengage without losing any further players. At least Kevster has the mobility to be back in the fight quickly, but they've got to reset to that neutral game in mid.
Yeah, Kev actually takes a shot there from Sparker, and it's just finished off by Funny Astro as he's going for the second direct hit. onto Funny Astro and not able to connect. So Space Station gets off to a good start. Now in the second fight, though, not as good as Kepster with that poke damage lands on the back.
That's precisely what you're looking for. It's why you want to play Farah in these fights. If you can find that early pick on a hero that generally can't fire back at you, you're in very good shape. It's going to basically mean the ENCE get to catch up and make up for the deficit that was caused by Kepster getting picked at the start of that last fight.
Well, we were talking about how when you have that Farah in the mix, right? It puts a lot of pressure onto your hit scan, right? So a lot of pressure on the Sparker here, and they'll actually drop the brick. So Landon's actually going to play the map.
Farah.
So yeah, this has to be for the Farah, right? Yeah,
and it's reasonable. I mean, Baptiste is decent at dishing out damage if he has to. Also with their Matrix, Farah just kind of dies instantly, but we're a little way away from that one. It's orbital raid time first, folks. Bob, the doorman, sets up. And it's going to be Vistola pushing him with that Terror Surge that, frankly, Space Station don't have the architecture to find their way out of.
Do you like the map kind of concession, though? I feel like, so in theory, right, it's definitely better against the Farah, can put down some damage. I know the healing, obviously, sustained pretty good, immortality field. Just the rally is such an ease of use ultimate, right? It's just really easy to get value out of the rally, and especially where you're going to be fighting in this map a lot of the time, where ENCE wants to fight. It feels like it's going to be an automatic high value ultimate as long as Kellex doesn't like die early during it.
Which is possible, but happens pretty rarely in these kind of setups, especially with that Juno healing. Hardy wants to advance. Kellex needs to stay out of this sight line here to really get that rally going when it needs to be there. Maywall here, broken up to some degree, still makes things slightly awkward for ENCE as they quite happily disengage away from their Terror Surge, though. That's Hardy not really using it in a position where there's any punishment or any real displacement. Now they've got to cross to the point. ENCE have been able to drag this round out really well, and with the Farah, this is exactly their game plan.
You trade the Terror Surge for the rally, though, and I mean, that's a pretty good trade there.
Absolutely.
For Space Station, right? They end up sending the Bob to the point, and that moves ENCE off of it, allows them to take.
Yeah, it looks like the Bob not really enough to keep them contesting it here. Spark has already gone down to Kevster, though. The Blizzard from Backbone is, well, it might catch Kellex. He spent enough time out of it, I think, actually, to avoid being frozen in general. And without Sparking out, you're in trouble. Vistola wants to push up, and now I think this has got to be the death blow. An orbital ray that comes up with very good timing. Space Station's only keeps Hardy alive, prolonging things. But it should be ENCE now comfortably coming out of this round. And if Space Station want to mirror this ENCE team, at least in terms of the core of their comps, that might be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, you're in trouble against Kepster when he's playing this far, even when you have a lot of hit scan pressure. When the hit scan is gone off the table and you're fighting that close quarter scenario, I mean, good luck, right? It's just a matter of time. But I feel like Space Station started off pretty well for them, right? They were actually able to trade the Terror Surge for the rally. There was no orbital ray yet on the other side, but you lose Shockwave, huge source, Sparker, who's a huge source of the damage at that time. And it's really difficult for them to bounce back.
Space Station here again. The May is great in a lot of scenarios here. I think if we're heading over to Control Center, it's completely reasonable to take it here. And yeah, Kevster switching off the Farah to the Genji basically gives that away to us. So here we go. Slight adjustments here, and you'll notice now that Landon's not expecting Farah either because he's on that brick.
Yeah, this one of the probably worst points you can run far on.
Sauna will still do it, though.
Right? When you think about it, yeah, they will still do it. Twisted Minds will still do it, but anybody who wants to play or can play some other things with a little bit more flexibility will switch. It'll also be Kai over to Cassidy, so not afraid to get in a little bit of a close core battle with this lineup, but they should be. They take a lot of damage. The Maywall's separating players, and this one's going to go heavily in favor of Space Station to kick it off.
I mean, ENCE want to fall back, but they can't fall back towards their spawn. They need to go back towards that middle room instead because of the Maywall that was put there. It didn't actually really catch anyone out necessarily. Maybe Sky was on the wrong side of it because they definitely got cornered, but yeah, that's just how powerful that ability is. It is ridiculous. So you can see it doesn't take much to break the Maywall, but the time spent is so crucial. And Hardy now just wants to push ENCE around here. Vistola hoped to play up on the corner, but now all of Space Station can sit comfortably behind Hardy's bulk and weight. Kai was low. This is going to take Sky's attention for the time being. And Space Station fall back to the point here, allow ENCE to move into what may be a trap.
Yeah, they try and catch Kai, like you mentioned, extremely weak is, and it's taking a lot of time here. The May walls, as you see, separating some players. That'll be an orbital strike here for Funny Astro as soon as they get that separation.
Hardy with a Terror Surge here, pretty darn good. Ooh, yep, no way, Keps is getting out of that one. He does not have the dash or the mobility to avoid it. So just the Genji pick should be enough, especially the ENCE have used a rally and couldn't keep them alive. This is disastrous for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's brutal. Right now, the rally is kind of just thrown in there for nothing, as you're not able to keep Kempster alive, as the Genji has definitely not been as impactful as we saw the Pharah be, right? It seems like the Pharah definitely was an issue for Space Station. Right now, the Genji is most certainly not.
Bob gets in there. Wall will be cutting off any retreat for ENCE now, but the orbital ray might kick them in fighting form, and it does. They're playing on the front foot now, getting Bob out of the way, and Vistola wants to get in Hardy's face, but there's a rally held in reserve for Landon. A big game changer potentially, but he's waiting for the blade from Kepster, I'd say. Deadeye catches Sparky, he just swung into that.
Oh.
Not sure what the idea is there. And the fight gets thrown away without Kepster having to go for the blade.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big turn there, because like you mentioned, they're playing around. Okay, they get some of these ultimates out. They know there's no orbital rays available, no rally either, where Space Station has the rally advantage. And they end up getting picked off first, so no reason to end up popping the rally, especially with the blade still held on the other side. That was kind of their win condition there. And now, though, they'll be able to kind of farm up this orbital ray pretty quick, right? To let Funny Astro kind of soak up a lot of this healing as, you know, players are getting poked on and moving in, and then you'll have double support ult. You're in a good spot here still for Space Station to close this round out.
We're being nitpicky about that last fight. I mean, Space Station are so far ahead of this round now, with both support ultimates developed. Can say much the same for ENCE, though. A pivotal engagement here.
Yeah,
ENCE get
quick.
through this, they might have this round wrapped up, and the map. Here's Landon, sitting back on this now, but the orbital ray means he can try and help Hardy, who's low. Blade comes out, Landon pops the rally, but it's too late to stop Kevster from getting Sparker first. And in the end, Landon never touches Kev. 2 blade kills for ENCE. They brave the storm that Space Station brought to bear. And now SSG have to reset yet again, 50% coming up for ENCE.
I mean, it's a really nice blade from Kev. It seems like he actually kind of like dashes even towards Landon, gets an early pick, and then able to kind of circle his way back towards the rest of the team. Get some much needed support as Space Station is definitely, with this one starting to get a little bit scary of slipping away, as Backbone does have the rally. You could also send Bomb to the point here.
Solid dynamite damage for Stola, really forces the fight here. I like the combo of the Deadeye and the Terror Surge. Both individuals, Kai and Stola, get eliminations off of that. And now Space Station are in trouble. They used the Bob there as well. They're going to have to pin all their hopes on a Blizzard.
Yeah, they most certainly didn't expect ENCE to get that aggressive, right? So Sparkle will actually go to Tracer. I wonder if he's actually going to get caught out here by Kai. The recall used.
Nice off angle though. Funny Astro is under some serious pressure. 92 and counting, but ENCE may have overextended here. Kai would hope for a little bit more. Landon can't really get him to touch anybody on the side of Space Station. They have at least been able to trigger that overtime. So someone's there. And they flipped it back. Now ENCE are in trouble. Have to come up small to stop this. Kai gets staggered out really painfully. He won't be in this fight when it matters.
Kempster does get a touch here. Is you're going to have both tanks going over to the Maw guys. It looks like Kempster pushed off the point there for a little bit. Touches gets a recall.
ENCE with Lucio here in Kalex's position. That Blizzard we were talking about earlier now. Space Station can try and use that to even up this map. It's Vistola going down first now. Blizzard throwing up, but nobody from ENCE really around it. It's the orbital ray that causes ENCE to trend backwards to benefit from it further. But Space Station look like they have this one wrapped up. ENCE just get a little too hungry and stumble.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they saw with that little bit of a window of opportunity, right? Where they pushed deep into the spawn. I guess it worked the previous time, but you had the Deadeye plus Terror Surge combination, right? Without really having to make many changes for Space Station, right? Just bringing in Hadi on the Maga gives you an opportunity to kind of keep that support backline. Ends up getting the rally at the end. So we'll see now for SSG. Could be a little bit of a pocket Reinhardt pick. I mean, we've seen a lot of Reinhardt today here in the EMEA. So we'll see if the originals kind of go back to it.
Yeah, Space Station were the team that really wrote the script for what we're seeing from SR Peak Check. Not that Cloudy wasn't a pioneer of Ryan in his own right. Space Station were doing it in the Overwatch League. And they were shocked.
I assume Kevster plays the Pharah here, yeah. So we'll see if the Pharah is as impactful as it was in our first point. So this is going to put a lot of pressure on the Sparker, and he already takes some damage trying to cross the bridge.
Hardy Oswald can push up into this. Yeah, ENCE Also with the TP in their midst, that's a little bit nerve-wracking, I think, for the back line. Spacestation don't have to make use of it yet, though. Really just a foreshadowing, if anything. TP's now expired, but the really ENCE have made no inroads in trying to get Hardy out of the way here. He's happy to play these corners. Vistola trying to deny that, shift him away from it, and it's worked out, especially with Lena now falling. Kai's been able to find that first pick. Backbone not on the signature May here, so doesn't have the same long-range potential. I might be kidding that he had in previous iterations of this map for SSG.
Now, like we talked about in the last series, right? If you're going to have that Rhine, the Sim seems to be a must pick going with it. And we saw a few times there, right? And Vistola would use his cooldowns, go in, see if he can kind of like bully Hardy out, see if they can create some space. Then he kind of fall back to the rest of the team if he's not able to do so. And then finally, he gets in position. They're able to get a kill. And that's when they full commit to going on in.
SSG have plenty of options to cross to play the point here. They don't have to walk up laboriously, but they will elect to head over towards that right room here at Lena. Okay, lucky. Almost got picked off. There's some dynamite ticking damage as Kai is getting closer to that first bomb. Here is that TP, and Spacestation are now crawling over the point, setting up the sim turrets. It's ENCE that have to disengage for a moment, but look to come back in now as the orbit away from Sky gives him every reason to fight. Kevster goes down first. Backbone's able to fight him as he probably gets too close to some of those turrets and is an easy target. With that Symmetra wall, Spacestation can play from behind this, but Vistola has not allowed the point to flip on him. And still with 4, can fight this, but without Orisa it becomes less and less likely they'll win.
Yeah, didn't want to invest anything else into a losing effort here for ENCE as Kevster comes off the spawn, gets Funny Astro, but he'll fall, so that's just a contest. Get them near 60%, but Spacestation did a great job using the TP as a bit of a bait, then kind of getting on the point. Amp Matrix, they had the orbital ray going, and then Backbone Sim wall there at the end to seal the deal, even with Kevster trying to use that barrage from up above.
Kev here, you'll notice, is playing up towards the left a little bit more here. A couple conks here make it a little bit hard for Spacestation to get best use of Hardy. Shadow finds 2. Kai and Sky were knocked to the ground, but Vistola stands in their way. Soaks that damage, and so no follow-up on the Shadow is possible. Still, ENCE are no closer to the point that they were before that Ryan ultimate was thrown down. Kevster is still trying to unravel this sweater slowly, but Kai's a little bit low at the back of the pack here. Can't take too many risks. Sparker, though, at long range is picked off, and Kevster now can start to really threaten this point. I think it's just the Symmetra here at Backbone who can't do anything when Kev decides he wants to fight.
Well, that was Sparker actually using a Deadeye. It looked like probably from that house over the bridge, and it was actually interrupted there by Kellex. So Kellex using the rally goes in with a shield bash, connects on to Sparker. Nothing with that Deadeye, and you're able to take out the Cassidy really fast after that. So a nice early pick off there from ENCE. Kevster just playing to the side of the point, constantly harassing, then becomes the one to jump on, get the touch.
72% and counting. Spacestation here. Tough to get a good air matrix off now. You can't play bridge because you're at risk of getting conked into the abyss. You can throw it up on one of the sides of the point. Spacestation want ENCE to push into them eventually, but not until they're really set up here. So here's a TP. They actually try and go to the right side. It's going to be an air matrix they throw down, but Kevster's able to shelter from it on the point. He can't be seen by anyone behind that Baptiste ultimate. Immortality field is mostly ignored because Spacestation are forced to position away from it now. Kellex and Sky fall, though. Sparker's been able to find 2 huge kills here, and Spacestation fight back when it matters. Don't even need the BAP ult to do it either.
Oh man, as I really like the way that ENCE played that even in the loss, where the Sim TP comes through from Backbone and actually Kai just throws the Bob at it, and the Bob starts just, you know, focusing fire on players coming through that teleporter. But Spacestation in desperately need of another fight win here is Kevster taking this position yet again, right? He takes this off angle, just trying to put down some damage onto Hardy, who's trying to desperately hold this bridge.
Shatter up for Hardy again, but it's getting past the Orisa is a problem. Yep, straight away, Fortify and Javelin Spin. So even the down targets behind Vistola are protected. Landon's immortality field there expires. I guess they were trying to play aggressively, peeking behind him, but he gets rid of Kai. That's devastating for ENCE now. Hardy, though, conked off the map, could be even worse. We're down to a 4 versus 4, and ENCE waste no time in getting over to the point itself. Sky should be able to keep Kellex topped up, though. The BAP is a little bit low for the time being. Spacestation know they can bide their time. Kellex never got the healing that he needed, apparently, and Sky is also worse for wear. Funny Astro, they're not able to touch here, and a Javelin connects with Backbone. That Sim is under extreme duress, and Vistola, if he needs it, has that Terra Surge, but Hardy and Sparker have gone to work on it. Vistola needs Kai to get involved. Terra Surge to try and draw people out into his line of sight. It's Vistola finding Sparker at least, but Hardy still stands tall. And without Orisa, there's nothing to be done here. Space Station, clutch, Lijiang Tower out. An electrifying 2 versus 2 results in SSG squeaking through.
The biggest thing is them actually getting Kellex there at the beginning of that. You were talking about how Kellex really low, Sky trying to heal him up. Sparker actually ends up picking up that kill, and he's very close to a rally. Probably would have just like played that corner, ends up getting a rally on the point. Would have been devastating for SSG to deal with, but Sparker coming up huge with some kills there on the Cassidy.
On multiple occasions, there are multiple fights that are like 2 versus 3s or even worse situations for SSG, and Sparker just emerges and finds 2 random kills on the Cassidy. All of a sudden, SSG well and truly in the driver's seat, threatening to take the game away. This was the whole map that we saw without any, not without a serious attempt at running that Mauga composition. We saw it, running back at the end of Control Center here. But this game promises to be an absolute barn burner after that map.
Yeah, we've seen SSG run the Mauga here on Lijiang Tower, but also probably knowing that there's going to be the Pharah on the other side, and that's how they want to play. Probably just kind of put that Mauga away here for the time being. The first round, Kepster, I thought, was phenomenal on the Pharah. Definitely gave SSG a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it gave them the absolute business. It wasn't a particularly close round at all. But, heading on towards Control Center, he also had some fantastic Genji moments, but in theory, really could have just taken things away at the end of that round, but they pushed into the spawn of SSG with Kai on this flanking angle of Cassidy that looked fine until, well, they started to get blown apart. That was, again, Sparker starting to fire back in a big way. This was, pretty stunning. And again, ENCE keep this one very, very competitive. They stop this Deadeye. He does get run over. It looks like a Kellex bash was involved here, but this is the end of the game. This is Sparker saving SSG. This takes some time to develop here as well, but he gets there in what ends up being a 2 versus 2. He just breaks this wide open, and nobody gives him the time of day somehow.
Yeah, 3 kills there towards the end from Sparker proves to be the difference. So both teams fairly evenly matched throughout this, right? I know the healing, very close aim in terms of damage. So kind of what we knew, right? ENCE and SSG, the 2 best teams in EMEA, very evenly matched, back and forth really throughout the entire year.
And we're getting to see Hardy play some of that Reinhardt on that last map. That's always fun to watch, making great use of that Symmetra in general, even if they're just baiting with a turret, throwing a bunch of their turrets around the point, making it hard for Kevster, who wants to contest a little bit, but can't fully commit lest he gets slowed and then burned down by that loose end Sim on the point. A lot of nuance in that particular round, which is, normally a real test of fundamentals in Overwatch, playing those control maps. So here we go. Hybrid, Clash/Flash, Push and Escort still available, of course, in this pool. And honestly, there are so many maps that you can take this team to.
Yeah, it feels like really pretty open here for ENCE, and also depending on what they want to do in terms of tank, right, between Chase and Vistola, who they want to play, why they want to play it, right? I think that'll kind of dictate where they decide to end up going here, right? A lot of King's Row, a lot of Runasapi from the teams in EMEA. Suravasa. So Suravasa also happens to be, I feel like the last few flashpoints we've watched here in EMEA seem to be Suravasa, maybe just trying to interrupt some of these teams in what they want to do with having that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they would do it, but you're also eliminating the possibility of getting dragged into a Clash map fiesta here by just, trying to take a reasonable sort of flashpoint map here, one that you're relatively comfortable on, and try and walk away with here. It's probably that also ENCE feel favored in it. Orisa mirror. So heading over to Suravasa is definitely the best look, although we definitely saw a little bit of variation on Suravasa from SRP check in that previous game, right? A little bit of Ryan, a little bit of Sigma, but this might just be what ENCE want to do. They just want to play the Orisa comp. Fair enough. This is where they do it. Kev on the Genji most likely as well.
Yes, let's see how this ends up working out for ENCE. Feels like a little bit of a must must-win map type of scenario for them. As I think once Spacestation obviously gets what they like to work rolling and they know it works, it feels like their confidence just, you know, jumps up, and they feel like they're obviously unbeatable, and then they're very difficult to get out of the way, right? I think when you can start to make them doubt themselves a little bit by, winning a few fights off of the comps that they want to play and making it a little bit difficult, I think that's when you can possibly take advantage and beat them. But ENCE will come here. It'll be both Hadi and Vistola playing the Orisa, and it looks like we're just going to get a Mei versus Genji matchup. That's going to be the only difference here. Look, Backbone was phenomenal splitting players off with the Mei, and I also would say in terms of the hit scan, you definitely felt Sparker's impact a little bit more than Kai's there, at least in map 1.
I think these are the two comps that really encapsulate what these two teams are trying to do right now. Orisa definitely strongest in this meta, but it's that variation of DPS that shows the team's true colors. Backbone's Mei has been incredible, been very, very good, and brings a level of utility that Genji can't often hope to match. But it's Kev's individual mechanics and prowess that gets ENCE across the line in that comparison, as far as I'm concerned. We will see that early Mei wolf there, but not really affecting ENCE, as they were happy to take a more neutrally sort of positioned fight. Lana might be caught here, yep. Little shield bash from Kellex. He saw blood in the water, but can't capitalize.
Yeah, he actually gets away with a defensive Mei wall there from Backbone, and now the rest of the team need to go down, try and get the supports in the way here for SSG as the points fastly flip.
Yeah, I mean, see, Kev there as well knows he can't pop himself up in the air for too long. Sparker will punish him, so he tries to drop below that sight line now, and flipped it back and now are ahead, and here comes Funny Astro from SSG. They are trying to retake here, and behind the orbital array, I think they'll be allowed by ENCE, who haven't developed any support ultimates until just now.
Yeah, fast orbital array, right? Because Landon, Backbone, Hadi taking so much damage there at the start. This is already the third transfer of the point we've had.
Here we go. Beat me up.
It's going to go right back the other way as well. Man, it's a chaotic start here to Suravasa.
Yeah, I guess you just respect this now after Space Station, but they don't get far enough back. ENCE says, no, we have an orbital array. We're not just going to let you disengage. We have the raw mobility of that Genji to make sure you're not getting out alive. And Hadi, oh, buddy, tough day out of the office, huh?
Man, it is brutal, especially with not many places here, on Suravasa to jump off the side, especially ones close to our first point. That's going to be like 15-20% extra gain there before our next fight by ENCE, doing a great job just staggering out that ride.
ENCE also, you'll notice that Vistola wanted to push up and got a Mei wall thrown behind him. He and Kev are there. If you try and turn tail and break the wall and run back, you might lose a player. So instead, they just go aggressive and get a second kill on Space Station, so they can't be punished by the Mei wall. That's honestly brilliant. And they're still sitting on 4B ultimates. That's a Space Station here, so you do have a shot. SSG have to basically throw it all at them, though. Landon has to get out of the Terror Surge first and foremost. Has a rally available. No need to make use of it, though, as Kellex dies with ult in hand, and ENCE will commit the bomb at the very least. They are going to try and go for this. Backbone, tough kill to find, taken down. So you have a 4 versus 4. Kevster trying to contest here, but eventually needs to step off as Kai doesn't escape the Javelin's scrutiny. He will be blended.
Yeah, Kev and Sky, though, with a kill on the opposite side of the map. So maybe this is fightable here for ENCE, as Vistola also back in the action.
Yeah, you probably have a numbers advantage here. And with Hadi as low as he is, that's a flashpoint win for ENCE. Again, it's really these couple random kills at the end of fights that are deciding this game.
And you also don't need to use the blade there for Kevster, right? So you have rally plus blade. You know that Space Station just ended up using their rally to end up taking that last point. So potentially a opportunity here at the beginning of this second flash point for ENCE. An opportunity to use that blade and take control of it early.
Backbone has the option of using the Blizzard defensively on top of his own team to stop the blade, or throw it at the orbital ray's path. Denying that from ENCE. So the plan ends up being now, as we do again just have a bit of a poke war. ENCE have better positioning towards the point. They thought they caught Vistola there briefly. He'll have to sheepishly back up there behind the Javelin spin. He's too low though. Space Station don't go for it. They want to have ENCE grouped on point maybe before this Blizzard, but because they're too late to stop the flip, ENCE can just pull off.
Maywall split off, and it even feels like, though, when we've seen the Blizzard thrown at the orbital array, it doesn't really stop anything from happening. It still feels like the orbital array is still extremely impactful.
It's rare where it's a big difference maker against it. Yeah, defensive wall. Okay, throw that one down here. Kevster hasn't bothered going for the blade yet, but it does mean the last bit of that orbital ray can't be used by ENCE, and our Space Station move back in with their own. Still, though, they've had no time on point. They've never fully capped it. They need to flip that first and then start thinking about it, but ENCE are not allowing this to occur. Terra Surge moves Bob out into the open, which is not really a consideration for Vistola. He just wants enemies in there. Smarkus Bob is down now. Kevster takes a little bit of a hit and can't quite reach the Juno. We'll just settle for Landon, I guess. And Funny Astra's got nowhere to go. That's a backline dead to the blade.
Yeah, he did not want to settle, like you mentioned. He wanted that kill onto the Juno, and you see the Blizzard drop during the orbital array there when ENCE ends up using that ultimate, but they just kind of stop. They still have some of the effects of it as well, right? So not as impactful as maybe you thought there. So that'll be the second flashpoint quickly over to ENCE.
Might make a quick one of this Suravasa game at this rate. There wasn't much the Space Station could do there. They never actually touched the point. But again, they were at a distinct ult disadvantage. Rally Orbital Ray and Blade were staring them down. Now things probably feel a little bit more reasonable for them. They will play out in the open and allow ENCE to push into this balcony position.
So we'll see now ENCE controlling this high ground, right? If really it's on Kai to be able to find something, as that'll be a Maywall of the choke to the left there, so trying to block some sight line. At least allowing them to enter in. It's a Dynamite here connected from Spark on a few players on the high ground.
Good poke. Very good poke, honestly, for Space Station. Constantly below 50%. Our ENCE contesting this now becomes a potentially lethal endeavor. Forward they come. Landon does lose that shield, but just steps back and allows Hardy to take center stage with this Terra Surge. Wall doesn't keep Vistola trapped on the point, but Kai and Kellex certainly are.
Yeah, and the orbital ray there used for ENCE, you don't really get any value out of it. It's going to be double support ult used there by Space Station, but an absolutely must-win scenario in terms of a fight kicking off the point, right? So you have to end up using both of those. Probably have a decent idea. Kellex has not really farmed up a rally just yet. I do think they have to be a little bit careful, though, Space Station, giving the high ground up yet again here to ENCE, right? You're going to be able to get that Bob can, like, take an off angle and then some serious shots there from Kai.
Here comes the Bob. This is from Space Station. Kai is one of his own now. Wow, I don't know if you want to be here. Bob won't save you from this Orisa pressure, unfortunately. It's easy enough for Hardy to take him down. And the Bob will basically spend most of his time shooting at a nigh impervious target.
Yeah, I mean, you'll take that trade, right? If you're SSG, like the Bob using that close quarter scenario, you end up losing Landon, I believe, early on, but still, you get a bunch of players trapped in there with the May. It's pretty tough to deal with. There's another Dynamite connection here from Sparker. Stan's walking out of the spawn.
Trying to release signal strength here. It's going to be a defensive wall thrown up. Maybe there was hope that Vistola will be caught there, but not even close, really. Terra Surge is definitely an option now. Space Station are losing out in the poke war. They're really getting folded into a compromising position, having to play for these archers.
SSG back up because they have this orbital ray. Yeah, they back up, they farm the orbital ray. They don't want to fight with the rally. Now they want to go fight behind this.
That's brutal. I don't know if that wall there from Space Station stops anyone from ENCE from coming in, but Sky getting obliterated there, clearly caught out and didn't have a route of retreat. This will end things for ENCE. It's a flashpoint now for Space Station as they finally decide to participate in Suravasa gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the right play from SSG there. They end up using the rally for ENCE. They kind of push on in, back up. No reason to fight that at that moment. You end up farming the rally still. You just give up the point for a little bit of time, and then you come back with an orbital ray, and you're in a fantastic spot. So really nice play there from SSG. Kind of played that perfectly there in that final fight.
This iconic flashpoint coming up here, this one. All of ENCE stuck close to that corner now as Hardy wants to swing them a little bit wide. The wall here means Vistola has to eat some more of this damage, so they come forward and now get that orbital rate going. Disengage behind the Blizzard. Vistola obviously doesn't care. Fortify will get him through the entire duration of that, and that is the brick stun on Kevster. Makes it awkward for him to actually get ult value, and now Landon brings him down with the whip shot. Landon controls Kevster perfectly there. The Bobbies have concern. They're going to have to back away a little bit behind this hyper ring. That's fortunate. ENCE get a reprieve after losing their Genji.
Yeah, just a brief moment of pause, right? As Kai actually takes out Sparker, takes an off angle here. This could be
No
huge.
one can really do anything about this. Funny Astro is too busy looking at people to heal. Kai has no equal at this point. The Sparker not involved. So ENCE will be able to clean up here and elongate this fight. Crucially, this one gets dragged out big time.
Dude, and Sparker had the bob, right? So Kai coming around the corner, getting that big kill. That could have been, I know, a bob onto the point, start things off, putting down some damage as Kevster not there at the time. So huge play there by Kai, just trying to close this out in map number 2 here for ENCE.
75% and counting. This would be it. Spacestation need to get going. They did win that previous flashpoint. Facing down a little bit now from ENCE. Both those support ultimates going to be quite crucial here. The Juno one will be developed, but Funny Astro goes down. Oh, with Orbital Ray of all things! It's a disaster. It's a complete catastrophe for Space Station. And not even Sparker can bail them out this time. They get a flip briefly. 1 kill for the hit scan player, but ENCE are going to have this one wrapped up for us. And after a little bit of an awkward Lijiang Tower, they'll be able to tie the series here on Suravasa.
Yeah, it looked like a completely different team here on Suravasa. I know the Genji pretty impactful. I think, though, for me, the biggest difference was Kai started to come alive, right? I know map number 1, we were talking about how Sparker definitely felt his impact a little bit more, but Kai with some huge kills there, clutching up there for ENCE.
Flanco, of course, you know, taking Sparker down while he had Bob available, which is really crucial, and it really just stretches that fight out. And start with control on that flashpoint. They end it with about 45%, and that just sort of keeps going. You've got to look back and wonder how they lose Funny Astro so early at the start of that engagement. There was enough time to be a bit more meticulous about your approach to come in and contest that flashpoint, but your Juno goes down with that orbit array. It's the worst possible outcome for a first pick against you, and it was utterly unsalvageable.
Yeah, it's the worst possible death at the moment. I think the way they're able to collapse, right, is they can just close the gap so fast with the Genji, right? If you want to use the speed ring with the Orisa, get in, I know, a spear onto a Juno and then like a dash on through. Basically, the Juno's already dead, right? You can kill her extremely fast if you can access her, and that's exactly what they did at the end.
Really feverish fighting, though, over quite a few of these points. You saw a nice blade there from Kevster as he's able to take the whole back line down. But here, Kevster gets pretty much ruined as he tries to go for the blade. Stunned up basically straight away. War comes up and he can't quite get over it. That pick there, though, that's a game winner, 100%. And with Sparker being taken down first, Kai knows full well that there was nobody that can do anything about this. You can see how they try and stay out of his line of sight, but that requires playing on the point there, which is also not where SSG want to be at all.
Right, like look at that position it puts Funny Astro in, right? He wants to move all the way back. So this is, I think, the kill here at the end. Yeah, so you see they do the speed ring, they get right in with the Genji. They also have the rally going as well, so could have been like a stun potential there onto Funny Astro. So they use just about everything to collapse onto the Juno of SSG, and this one completely dominated by ENCE.
I mean, in terms of like the damage stats, there's really nothing that separates these two teams there, but it's the little things, right? It's those first picks, it's ult economy as well, something that doesn't always represent here in the numbers. And this is kind of how we will talk about the narrative for this matchup, is that once again we find ourselves in a metagame where ENCE on the composition seem to be a little bit better. There are some maps I think that are going to allow SSG to like play that Mei variation for Backbone, who does have a Genji, by the way. It's just not something we really see from SSG. Not as prolific Genji region as maybe North America is, but Kevster is always designed to be a difference maker. That's why a guy earns the big bucks. That's why he comes in and these teams are built around him. And you still at least have someone like Landon, who is an incredible brig player, who in often very difficult situations can find ways to neutralize that blade, neutralize the effect of Kevster. But over like a 5-map series, that is a lot to ask, I think, from one brig.
I mean, Kev can play the Mei as well, right? It probably just feels like playing the Pharah and the Genji gives themselves a better opportunity in order to win. So now SSG with a map choice. Let's see, where would you want to go if you're a Mei favorite, right? Is it Runasapi?
So
is it maybe it's a King's Row?
Right now they're picking Runasapi and Gibraltar when they lose maps. So those are the most common selections from them right now. They don't seem to have like a particularly strong affinity for any one hybrid map, but we're probably going to end up there if this series goes along. So yeah, okay, Gibraltar. Yep.
So Gibraltar. this is the one where they bring in KSA and they play Diva with the Mei and try and control server room in the lower bridge.
Yeah, that's right. I think that this map's going to get very interesting if/when we get into the shuttle phase. Kai obviously is a great Widowmaker player, but I've often seen him opt out of taking those duels when they're offered. So we are definitely almost certainly going to have like KSA come in here. The inside. Okay, so Chase comes in. We are going to see probably two very different styles here then if we have KSA.
Are you going to see Winston here potentially from ENCE? Yeah, probably a Winston-based composition in the setup here for ENCE. And yeah, and we'll see if there's a sub here for SSG. And yep, this makes sense. It's a KSA. So no zoomed in Roadhog picture today. It'll be a Sigma for KSA.
I don't know how that came about. That was quite funny.
I love we had a zoomed in, I think it was a Roadhog too in one of the weeks you were gone, when you were on your yacht or wherever you were at.
Repeat that last part?
You were on vacation.
Yeah, I love vacations. I take them all the time. All right, here is Watchpoint Gibraltar coming up. It's 1-1 in this series. It was a very awkward end to Lijiang Tower. I think ENCE probably felt like that's a map that they allowed to get away from them, but Suravasa was one that they locked up with absolute certainty. And so SSG go, right, well, we're going to try out our Gibraltar strat again. A map where, like you said, Diva and Mei find their way into the composition here. And frankly, it's really annoying. I mean, KSA tends to be everywhere. Also, the Mei on the attack side is pretty effective because enemy Divas get slowed enough that sometimes they can't get back up to the high ground if the Mei gets on them. So they kind of get caught out in the open and can't sort of translate between the ledges. See SSG do that in the past. ENCE they're going to be on, this Winston almost certainly. And I do like the Kev Stick Genji. I think it's, for this part of the map, right, you just need something that handles verticality a little better.
Yeah, and it's an interesting wrinkle here, obviously, with the Ana in the mix as well, right? When we see a lot of Winston, we see a lot of Ana played. The Nano's so good for Winston. As SSG, look at this. They probably have a read, right? Because Chase comes into the game. Obviously, you expect him to play the Winston. They actually don't even play the main, so they'll play the Reaper, but that is a silly bio grenade.
I mean, Chase goes down. Probably no surprise. He does dive on Diva and on Reaper, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, Sky really just has his pick of when to throw that down. As long as there's no defense matrix active, these bios are going to be big.
So this is definitely going to put a lot of pressure on Chase, though, right? Between like Hinder and the Reaper and whatnot, and even the Diva, right? I know micro missiles get a nerf, but still extremely powerful.
It's still powerful enough to mean that Winston has to try and work around the Diva more so than take her on at face. So we are through to a degree. Bionade there as well. I mean, you can see they're waiting for it. Landon was ready.
Yeah, they don't want to jump down here and challenge, right? They don't want to put that Winston in that type of situation. So they're just trying to poke here a little bit, see if they can kind of catch one out as Keps are able to live and get back to the high ground.
They're getting some good damage here, I will say that much. There's the bio, 3 players caught by that one, and it's time to get involved. Winston really knows how to work with the Bionade, that's for sure. Not even the strongest of shields can protect Space Station against that.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Ana's kit at this point is just created to work hand in hand with Winston in terms of the tank. Backbone not able to make it out, so it'll be another fight win here for ENCE, and I think things will actually get a little bit easier for ENCE here, right? You have the Nano, so Chase can play really aggressive in terms of what he would like to do, and then really just kind of ultimates galore here across the board for both teams. So a huge fight, but I think this probably still favors ENCE.
The counter dive here that we'll probably see is Space Station maybe see Sky want to push into server room a little bit. They're actually going around the other way, so this allows them to touch the cart whilst exposing themselves the least here. So they get to the cart. Spark hit with the Bionade though. Keep an eye on that health bar. Tries to Deadeye for survival's sake. Chase says, what are you doing? Okay, thanks for that one.
Yeah.
Server room here going to be taken up.
This is just the primal used here by ENCE. This is really good.
It also means you can cycle into your next primal potentially a little faster on the next rotation. Such a cheaply won fight for ENCE.
Yes, I know now you're going to be able to use that Nano onto the Winston, let the Winston farm up even more, or you decide to Nano the Genji, right? I mean, you got Nano Blade, right? I mean, that is a fight-winning condition.
You just don't want to get stunned by the Brig. If you can avoid that, you're probably fine.
It would feel like a waste of both ultimates if you did it. The safer option, I think, is definitely the win.
I like the off-angle idea with the Bio there, but Sky doesn't connect it. Slow enough cooldown though. It's going to be Mana Blade coming in from Kevster, and he hits the backline like a ton of bricks. Funny Astro had landed, torn to pieces. And KSA likely to be staggered out for the rest of eternity on that high ground. Man, Spawn is a long way away. So is, by the way, the nearest ledge. KSA is...
Yeah, this sucks.
No.
Slapped.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
That's going to buy, like, what, 15, 20 seconds, right? And we're below a minute. You have Bob available here for ENCE. This has been perfect on defense, playing especially into this really difficult comp to deal with at times. The Reaper in the mix.
Backbone has not been a fixture of this map at all. Has not had the opportunity to do what Reaper does best, and Sky Reaper has a off angle or good shield from land, and he knew that had to happen. Now Sky's in an awkward spot. Him getting to the point can be disrupted by KSA on the way here. That might have been a little bit too much of a gambit to make here. Here's Bob, going to be knocking, or attempting to knock KSA down. Doesn't actually work out. Landon has to go for the rally here, though. Bionade on KSA. Surely that's a D-man can force the self-destruct. Can anybody find the Baby Diva behind that? Answer's no. Here comes ENCE. Yeah, again, still no cap, of course. And Chase is low, though. Can't dance the bubble nearly well enough. So Space Station will get through. Finally, that checkpoint.
Yeah, their opportunity, I think, was taking out KSA when they get the D-Mech and he uses the self-destruct. Getting the kill there would have been huge. You did connect with a few players with a bio grenade when the rally was coming out, but didn't have the, like, if you would have had a nano there for Chase, I think it probably is a fight that the ENCE can definitely end up taking, but you just don't have the survivability, especially to stand toe-to-toe with the Reaper there on the point.
This is where we saw SSG be the most annoying with this comp. Diva's obviously pretty good at giving you some degree of shuttle control. Also playing for that high ground could be good, but that bio is, yeah, pretty rough. Kellex and Lena, though, traded out. So it's just the Briggs here. Chase is obviously very wary of getting too close to that orbit array. Is lucky to get out alive, I must say. Quick little heal. And to get back in the fight, but Kai was left on an island in the meantime. Awkward stuff here for ENCE, but it's not easy to play around Juno Ultimate at the best of times.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you fight this if you're ENCE, right? It's going to be Kevster jumping down. It's going to be Kellex actually using the rally here just to stay alive, and it's going to be a switch to the Curie just to get back. And Chase, as soon as that primal, I mean, don't have it anymore. He's just going to disintegrate.
Not, his heart was not in that blade at all. Yeah, he's just like, oh, what am I doing here? Okay, well, free checkpoint for SSG. All of a sudden, they've got a pretty decent time bank and a shot at ending the map. ENCE just honestly gets snowballed out of the shuttle phase, which is a thing that happens.
I mean, so do you swap off of this Winston? I mean, I feel like it's... I feel like it works so well on the first point, but I think it... I mean, yeah, I don't know, right? What do you do? This is kind of where it hurts sometimes, obviously, making some changes to bring in the tanks, right? It gives you a little bit of a different look, but also a readable
Sky to keep hitting that Bionade off cooldown. And you try and win this way, I think. Here's a grouping. And Sky just poking out in the open. This is an utter capitulation here from ENCE. Well, they might have left Space Station really back into this map in a huge way. 1 minute 45 on the clock, and that checkpoint fast approaching. Kai's Bob will help to a degree, but he's body blocked short of the point. Kellex able to step up here now on the Brig. The Winston bubble might help to some degree, but Funny Astro has an orbital raid. Kai, that's a big kill on Sparker, but more needs to be done here with that Kevster and Kellex, and oh my word. That is a crash out of titanic proportions.
I mean, we go from what, like almost a first point hold to just a speed run through the rest of the map. Crazy turn of events there, as I really like the way that they use that towards the end. So Sparker uses that Deadeye, and they actually, everybody goes for cover behind the same thing for ENCE, like one of these boxes to the right there. And it's a TP from Backbone, like directly behind them, and it forces like some players out. And that's where Sparker ends up getting a kill there with the Deadeye. So really neat setup there from SSG.
Smart play. ENCE were grouped up. It's just what Reaper wants. It's definitely going to frighten them if you TP right in front of them. And getting that free kill on Sky as a result. Very, very nice little piece there that Backbone just reacts to as the Deadeye goes off. ENCE looks so good on that first part of the map, and there's no reason why an Unicom cannot succeed on the shuttle phase, but it is easier for attackers to get through if they do have that Diva. Now, ENCE likely will go with a very similar comp. This is a already classic, dive look that Chase looks to bring. We did see them come out on the Orisa before, so ENCE do have that option with Chase in here, but Winston always going to be the preferred option for him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something you have to consider going to, right? If you're kind of going up to the high ground constantly and the Reaper's blowing up the Winston, you have to, I feel like, at one point, concede to make some changes as Chase will jump up, try and put some damage down. Now is a great idea what everybody's playing here for ENCE. So know that for ENCE, you're going to have to go against this Reaper, right? Chase trying to be really careful playing against it, gets really low.
So that first very shallow dive was made there by Chase just to confirm that Reaper was in fact in the game. We'll TP back to the high ground now. ENCE's been allowed to get around that first corner, but this is where it gets a little nastier. Reaper can drop down for free, much like Winston cycles his mobility, and then TP back up to safety if need be. Sparker also, this is a much more aggressive line that makes it a little bit difficult for Sky to play safely.
You do have a little bit of an advantage in terms of the range here for ENCE, right? Playing the Ashe versus Sparker playing the Cassidy, where we saw, Kai being able to put down some nice shots, but I mean, when Sparker's hitting like this, I mean, it doesn't matter, right?
I mean, the accuracy is really nice. I mean, this is probably north of 65%, which is very good for Cassidy, especially at these ranges. I mean, just straight up fighting an Ashe, okay. Yeah, I mean, this generates a ton of pressure. Also, gets you an ult very quickly. Sky though, big bio. Oh, both DPS, surely not.
Yeah.
Just a misstep for Spacestation there that ENCE are more than happy to pounce on.
It felt like ENCE needed something to go their way there, and that is most certainly it, right? The sleep from Sky. I think Sparker's probably surprised he got hit by it, right? It's just like right on the corner, just clips him. And then the bio connects to both DPS. Couldn't ask for a better opening there from ENCE.
Just what they needed to really get going on this map. Against a comp that looked like it would give them some trouble. Now here though, this is where Spacestation won their previous Gibraltar game with this extremely pesky composition. Cut off like the avenues of entry here. Use Diva like aggressively, deny any Widow switch opportunity. You just can't afford to do that here. But Chase is in and amongst it, seeing that orbital rate come down, though we'd probably like to play for the fringes here. Oh, the door! Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. I mean, we saw that coming, obviously. Chase saw it coming just way too late. But this is where SSG, like you mentioned, they controlled the high ground so well the other day. Made it absolutely suffocating, impossible to break through. And you see, they push up straight away with that same high ground hold yet again.
Have come forward here to play these positions, even their supports.
Well, look at this. I mean, they play KSA in the doorway here, right? And then you can have, on the backside, Sparker in Backbone coming through the other way. I know you're not going to barrel directly into the Reaper. If you do, then KSA is going to fly around the corner on the opposite side of the high ground. Barrel on through with the missiles. It puts you in a really rough spot. And obviously, nobody wants to be forced into taking the low ground. That would not result in anything positive.
This is the only window ENCE can move up, just in between those rocket booster cooldowns of the Diva. Sparker bio, no, Kevster, yep, okay, gets a bit of alone time with Funny Astro. And that'll be an ENCE breakthrough. Generally, it's tough for the Reaper comp to get through this part of the map once the door shuts. When there's like a far forward presence from Space Station, sorry, the Winston comp, but they do get there. I mean, it is just Kevster sneaking through when KSA couldn't cover both of those entry points.
I mean, he just gets to the top of the shuttle, and you see when it's a 1v1, when he's got Funny Astro in that Genji versus Juno matchup, the Genji definitely has its way with the Juno, just kind of floats in the air for a very long time, almost like Echo. In a way, so look at this Sky setting up in position, trying to get a big bio here. It jumps around the corner. That's the rally from Landon as well.
This makes up a lot of time, almost all that you lost on that first phase of the map. ENCE here have now got Nana into a much more oppressive spot, able to sit up in this high ground and have a lot of space. Sky needs to respect this though. Off the spawn is going to come Landon, probably looking to get a foothold up there, but not before KSA's demeched. So Space Station now going to have to think fast and find a way for this Reaper comp to work on these very long sightlines of the third phase.
Yeah, we'll see if there's any changes in store here for Spacestation, because they're constantly also what happens here is like when you're constantly forced to just keep fighting over the cart and like in that position, it also makes it so much easier for Kai, right? And you know, all the pressure, all the fighting is pretty much done over the payload, and a lot of damage going Chase's way, including the supports, where the Deadeye here, see if they can kind of line anything up. It looks like everybody's going to make it back here for ENCE, so that's going to give some space to SSG, but yeah, that longer sightline is definitely going to be good for the
no
Ash
free
here.
kills there for Sparker, unsurprisingly. KSA is a little low for this, and even a self-destruct might not guarantee a remake now. Slept on the way up, but does get far enough down the line and whip shot it back towards their team. That look at that safe. Self-destruct here. KSA likes to just throw these sometimes, even if he's not looking for a big remake moment, but the blade on Funny Astro is huge. Orbital Ray got thrown down, but Funny Astro was a little bit loose of it. And Backbone Death Blossoms into a deflect. Kempster's got this on lock.
Yeah, it's a lot of players really low there as Chase, you know, follows up there with the Primal Rage, gets on in, and that gets some of the ultimates out there. It's really Orbital Ray used there by Funny Astro and Co, and then that allows Kempster to push on in with the blade, as it looks like Backbone just trying to get a touch, maybe slow things down a little bit. So I mean, it's been good against the Winston. It's just not been great here on defense.
Yeah, hard to see how it's at its best. I guess you still dissuade the dives from Chase. KSA and O might be enough to do that on their own. They're going to be removed, though. Here come ENCE to finish the map with a bit of a lead, about half a minute. Favoring blue side now as they get through pretty comfortably each stage of the map.
Yeah, this is such an interesting matchup between these two teams and these two comps here on Gibraltar. So typically, I know the Winston, obviously, as we saw, struggles going into the Reaper, but Spacestation never really able to kind of get their footing there on defense, as they'll have another crack here yet again. Here's SSG with 1:33 on the clock. ENCE finishes with a bit more time, right? 2 minutes on the clock, where I think that also Kai having that longer range, right, definitely pays off here for ENCE. He's not in harm's way as much as like Sparker is, and although when we were on with Sparker, right, you're seeing him put down lots of shots on the Cassidy and connecting with a lot. It wasn't like really necessarily like lethal damage, right? The range that he's fighting Kai in, like with the fall off and whatnot, it's not putting that much damage down on the Cassidy.
Now the issue for Spacestation was definitely this part of the map. ENCE almost bled them dry. They were in overtime when they managed to capture that first objective. It's just too easy for Sky to get biotic grenades thrown down. Lennon again has the toughest job. Go and put your shield in the way of the bionade so we don't get hit by it. That is really hard to pull off when you have to go down the underpass with this comp.
So we'll see if SSG decides to change anything else up. As nope, it also feels like you need the D.Va, right? When, especially in this type of composition, going against the Winston, you need something to access high ground. But then also with the Ana in the mix, right? You can't just solely rely on, you know, dodging the nades or blocking them with the Brig Shield. You need like the defense matrix capabilities.
Kellex, obviously he can just try and protect Kaya from any of the return fire from Sparker. Give the Ash even more of a range advantage against the Cassidy. Big bio, not one you can really follow up on though, but the dynamite on top is, oof, that's pretty rough. Good poke here. Look at the ults on the DPS now start to develop, but Sparker's also been dishing it out. We're into the underpass now. Waiting for a bionade about now, and that one is one that Landon cannot prevent. He's so low, and yet ENCE is so scared of the Reaper. Fighting him in that underpass, and they let that go as well.
Yeah, well, I think they're waiting for another opportunity where you can combo as well, right? As Sky will end up with another bio grenade rather shortly.
It just came out, yeah.
See if it kind of gets tossed in here. Oh, yeah, he ends up getting hindered, so Chase not able to get back up to the rest of the team.
I think Astro's in trouble here. Oh, my goodness, Sparker saves him, bails him out. Okay, that hurts.
I thought for sure he was dead. I mean, that also, you know, some healing there as well allows Funny Astro to build towards Orbital Ray. Quite massive here for this final fight here.
Yeah,
on
go forward. Quick Ray here can give Spacestation the checkpoint. Get through the hardest part of the map for them. Sparker taking some shots here. Deadeye's also up for the Cassidy. Sky has a nano though. This is good for Chase. He can drop in there, but they've got a touch. They've got a touch. They've got a touch. Oh!
Okay, so maybe are they going to play aggressive here and try and see if they can get some kills and stop it?
I guess the fact that they're in overtime, right, doesn't really matter if they touch or not here. Giving up the checkpoint does matter, but still. Sparker here taken down by Chase. He's able to get in. And that nano boost eventually pays off. They're allowed to take their time, but to a self-destruct of all things, Chase falls. They've got to get KSA out of mech now. They know he can't refresh it, but the healing is so good. KSA just can't be killed. Somebody get him out of the tin can. Bionade surely is going to get them there, and Kellex fortuitously avoids the Deadeye. Kess is forced into a long-range deflect, which means he can't close the gap now and is still taking poke damage. I don't know what's happening here. Kellex tried to stall out, eventually falls here, and Spacestation are on the road.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really weird and bad situation here. Kai actually doing a lot of work here from the high ground. Okay, so now they finally get them off. If you lose that, if you're ENCE, you are in so much trouble, right? They were kind of all in on getting a fight win there. You get chased back off the spawn. They never able to deal with Kai on the high ground. And that allows them to get the fight win. They wanted it probably before this door opened up, right? And
yes.
I know you're able to get the fight win just directly on top of checkpoint A.
The touch is important because obviously it means now it's an extra team fight that like ENCE would in theory have to win with only 2 minutes here. And they also had their fair share of early difficulty getting through. 2 minutes.
I mean, now if you're SSG, right, can you play underneath that bridge, right? And try and force a fight down there with the Reaper, and then let's say it doesn't work, you still have another fight on the checkpoint, right? Because it's going to take a little bit for the door to open up and kind of push on through, right? So you might have an opportunity to kind of like take a fight where it stalls the clock down below, and then another fight yet again to win.
You might have 3 fights, worst case, anyway.
Yeah.
Depends on what the spawn timings are after, like when that first checkpoint gets taken. If it gets taken, you might not be able to come back in. So we're going to see, but it's a very close one. Only 2 minutes to get not just that checkpoint, but just a little further past it. That is an amount that really matters. That little extra distance that Spacestation were able to get. Going to have to be a quick first fight here for ENCE if they want to do this with any degree of confidence. And remember, it was only a sleep dart from Sky catching on to, I think, Backbone it was that gave ENCE that first checkpoint last time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a sleep. Oh, actually, just kind of like wraps around through the high ground, trying to make a play there. Maybe like a sleep and a nade. Gets the sleep, doesn't actually drop the nade. It was the sleep dart from Sky onto Sparker, and then the bio onto him and Backbone that opened things up last time on offense. But it'll get the payload moving. It'll get underneath.
I think the
bridge
Reaper pick actually could be significant. Chase now at least can set up on this high ground. It's what drives SSG back at the very least. Sparker slept. Bio now follow up for the Winston. Oh, it's beautiful. Landon is the one that takes it for Mr. President, but still, a pick is a pick. And now they need a Brig to work with. Chase is just going to try and avoid the Reaper if at all possible. And there's 1 minute left on the clock here for ENCE. Spacestation have a real fight here. ENCE don't quite know that they're coming from the right side yet. Chase was positioned as if it would be the left, but another big sleep from Sky. Oh, he's getting it done for the boys. KSA has no chance to get back into the mech now, and ENCE have that virtual player advantage. Can they exacerbate it further for the defenders? It looks like that's a big fat yes. And ENCE are going to get themselves this checkpoint now with very limited difficulty with the end of the map in sight.
I mean, they back up, they get a little bit of healing right after getting the D-Mech on KSA. You see the box of victory here.
Can you even touch?
It's going to be just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be desperation if you can. It looks like with the X-rays, it's going to be almost impossible. KSA has used all his boosters. Yeah, you're not going to be able to get there.
Oh, ENCE. Spacestation, they pick their Gibraltar map here, expecting that they could come in with this Reaper-based, you know, hyper-mobile diva composition. And take them to task here, but it's really the honor play for me. But ENCE, that signified the map victory for them there. Every time they found big advantages. Sky Reaper was in the engine room on the tools.
Yeah, I like the map pick for SSG. I think they picked the map here to go to Gibraltar, right? Probably ENCE thinking that they're going to play potentially some May type of stuff like we've seen. KSA comes in, so you know it's going to be like Diva. They bring in Chase to play the Winston, and they kind of like throw a little bit of a curveball and play the Reaper, which is like a really difficult hard counter. But for me, the difference was Sky on the Ana. The Ana, it feels like every time they were able to get those sleeps in the bios resulted in some big kills.
Great map win there for ENCE, and that was SSG looking to get an advantage in this series now. There's a lot of discussion. There should be at least around what map pick should be, but also the difference makers with these two very different comps on Gibraltar. So for all that and more, we're going to head back to our desk.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Yeah, McGravy and Johnny have the utmost pleasure of breaking this one down. And there is a lot to unpack. We saw subs coming in this very map. It was SSG's map pick. They're heading to Gibraltar. So we're like, oh, their new designated May map, of course. But this time we saw the Reaper early on in the series. Questions were raised whether or not that's maybe overcooking it a little bit. Overcooked? Yes, no?
It's a little bit overcooked. I think the idea for SSG is, yeah, this is like their newfound May map. They felt very confident playing May, but when ENCE brought in Chase with the Winston, May is not a great answer with the Winston. The May is a little bit better against the D.Va, so they felt like the Reaper was a better answer, but it just feels so difficult. There's so much poke. There's so much stuff that can force out your cooldowns. It's so hard to follow up in the dives from KSA. Difficult. They made a good run there on the attack. They really snowballed it there with the Reaper and the Brig and getting good bashes. But like they said, Sky with the sleeps and the nades and the flanks, it was just too much. And I really want to highlight Kevster getting onto Funny Astro with consistency as well. It felt so easy for him every time to get value. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, I think, obviously, as they mentioned, Sky Reaper with the nades, that was a big kind of like win condition, right? You get a good nade and that can turn a fight. And we saw at times that SSG did a good job at like playing around that. So on second point attack, for example, Sky actually hits a beautiful nade. They trade out the Brigittes, but like you stay alive in that fight and you walk with the Ray healing. But then you have fights like this, right? It's overtime and you're on defense and Sky just is a two-man nade. And that is just going to allow Chase to jump up and get those frags, right? I think in general, it was a well-executed map from ENCE. They really got those dives going. We saw in overtime as well. They were happy to let the cap go. They didn't bother about the fact that SSG, they got the 4th point cap on overtime. They just wanted a clean dive with the fight, with the Nano Blade going. And that is going to allow them to get them to a halt and then win out the map.
Absolutely. Yeah, they played it patiently there, really knowing their win conditions definitely helped as well, that they got those crucial picks in so many moments, like fighting with a man advantage. Funny Astro very often on the receiving end of being the first one down. So yeah, rough times for SSG, who are now once again getting to pick the map. Where will they take us next?
It's a good question. What do you think here? As a former coach, what do you think?
What would you do?
I feel like you're gonna want to go push here because the fundamental problem there with Gibraltar was that KSA was playing the D.Va, but he had to manage stopping the cart, and he also had to manage helping his backline. He wasn't able to do both effectively. So we're gonna go to Midtown, which is not what I was expecting. Potentially, like this could be. I don't want to call my shot here. Could potential sim shenanigans, do you think, here from SSG? Are they pulling out the crazy card? Because what
we've seen it before. We've
seen it before, and it feels like what is quote-unquote meta on these maps just isn't working for SSG. So potentially some crazy picks here and some crazy compositions.
I feel like most importantly, I think Kevster has been phenomenal so far this series. We saw what a dominant win it was on Suravasa, and in my opinion, ENCE should have won Lijiang Tower as well if it hadn't for being a Sparker popping off on that Cassidy. ENCE, they were ahead 99% on Gardens on Lijiang Tower, about to win, but Sparker in consecutive fights had big impact, got a lot of kills, right? So Kevster's been a standout so far on the Pharah and on the Genji, but it's on Spacestation to work around that, and Midtown could be one of those maps where maybe Kevster has less effectiveness.
And as you just saw on your screens, both Spacestation, Gaming and ENCE are subbing once again. So Hardy is back in, KSA out, and on the other side, of course, Chase has also left the building for now, and Vistola is back into the mix. What does that tell us?
We're kind of back to mano-y-mano, brawl versus brawl in your face compositions, I think. Those are both their comfort heroes for both these guys. Probably see Vistola, potentially D.Va, but probably most likely the Orisa. What's meta, so.
Well, this is, of course, match point for ENCE. We are in the upper bracket final. The loser's not out yet. They have another opportunity to fight their way back upstairs from the lower bracket. But let's see if ENCE can get this done or if SSG can bring it back. Match, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously an interesting pick to see Spacestation throw in here, Matt. But for ENCE, it does allow for like that Kevster Pharah. That's can be pretty oppressive on the poke down. And it actually ends up causing us to return to like these signature styles of both these teams around the Orisa core. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, I think obviously we return to Orisa land. I know here going to Midtown, especially with these subs in terms of tank. I mean, I really like the combination of the Pharah and the Ashe here, especially if you're going to see what Cassidy May, right? I think this for ENCE should win out at the end of the day. I think it's just going to be really difficult for Spacestation to close that gap constantly.
They might go for the train here, knowing that they're at risk of getting poked down for a long time if they go under. So here we go. This is going to cause Kevster to try and find like these sharp little rocket angles. Spark is looking out for the far, just to hover above the train card at any point, but Kevster now will position back. Spacestation is just trying to outmaneuver ENCE here, really, but they're getting hammered in the poke wall. Look at this damage. Yeah, Backbone can't do much about that. Once Kevster really wants to commit, there's not much you can say about it.
I mean, you're eating dynamites, you're eating far rockets, right? Arisa damage, right, is nothing to kind of scoff at, right? It's really difficult to get on through. And I mean, what is the answer here? To just kind of throw more healing in the mix, right, and more sustain with like immortality field. You know what?
No, it's just to shoot the far. Right?
I like the Ashe swap here, but I think I would have actually maybe even liked to see them try it with just like the Ashe May, right, and keep the Brig here in the mix.
That's valid. I think we saw it on Control then and trying to play the Baptiste, and just didn't feel quite as impactful. But obviously what we know Brig can do in these fights. Kevster commits for this one. Well, it helps that Vistola was also well and truly in there, like swimwear.
Yeah, Orbital Ray does end up getting used here, though, by ENCE, so they do end up getting that ultimate out here. Does Space Station, so you'll have that to use coming up, but Backbone in a rough spot. Javelin to the face, and then a rocket follows it up, so 2 fast fight wins there for ENCE.
It certainly feels like this is emblematic, I think, of what ENCE's strengths are and how they play to them. They can also do this very similar approach on the attack side of the map, being able to move the Pharah to the Genji seamlessly. It's been a thing that's gotten a lot of teams a lot of mileage in this current metagame. Sky obviously did use that orbital ray previously, so something to bear in mind now. It's funny Astro does at least have that to try and get Space Station within arm's reach of ENCE. Right now they are being definitely held back by this constant poke. What a commitment here. Okay, Kevster is the only one, I think, from ENCE that have really crossed the line of scrimmage, so to speak. But he wants that barrage value and he wants it now.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. You have actually Vistola going right into the alleyway as well, making a play for Sparker, so getting rid of the hit scan right away. I mean, look at how deep, both teams just kind of split amongst the map as Kevster will take out Funny Astro, and I think Kevster able to get away.
Oh, that's so high value for Kevster. Still, you are going to give a couple ticks over to Space Station now. Back into the fire station they go, trying to get out of that LOS. But this may also result in a stagger. Do not produce the snowball here, Backbone.
You thought about he's going to use the blizzard. You thought he was going to do it. You thought for sure he was going for it.
Backbone is so annoying. There's immortality. He did it. He did it. He threw the blizzard. Kept it down to Funny Astro though, but the trade of Backbone here really put Space Station at a loss, I think. Hardy at least able to contest and touch. He did the thing, man. I told you he would.
I thought he was going to do it when we both had the idea that he was going to do it, but he tricked us a little bit. He held on a little bit longer as Backbone will make a change here over to Venture, I think, just to get back and get a touch. I mean, everybody just getting staggered out here, and those easy kills there towards the end, all staggered out, allows ENCE to not use any of the ultimates, Mitch. So they'll have Bob to kind of contest. They'll have the orbital ray here. They do have to be careful though, SSG, with the Ant Matrix, right? Could be pretty deadly if you try and get aggressive push on into it.
Space Station got a lot going for them at points in this series. This is not one of those moments, though. They are extremely disadvantaged in terms of ultimates, and they'll have to settle for just 2 ticks here and change on Midtown. A very anemic attack side.
So maybe they can do better with it on defense. But I think just the pressure that gets pushed down by the Ashe and the Pharah, it's just too difficult to deal with. For this May composition, at least at the moment. So we'll see if any big changes from either team. I don't expect them. I think you'll probably just kind of continue to see ENCE roll out with that far base composition. They don't even seem to really want to even touch the Cassidy, just completely on top with the Ashe. Where I think what you could, let's say for Space Station, right? You'd almost probably, be better off with like Ashe and Genji, right? Putting a little bit of pressure onto the Ashe on the other side, right? Where May, it feels like a very passive style where you're just getting chunked down over time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, passive in the sense that outside of a wall pick scenario, you don't always have a good reason to come forward. Here, I think a Space Station can be proactive at, making use of back, because every part of this attacker's approach is wallable. and you can't really circumvent it there. But that also involves an element of risk. Like, you want to come forward, you want to try and find a pick. What if they break the wall and then somehow keep their...
Well, if you come forward and you're taking, you know, rockets from the opposite side and maybe you get hit by dynamite, you're still in trouble.
Yes.
Right?
It is not.
I mean, we've seen times where Spacestation, they'll get the first pick off, but then the next two rapidly go in favor of ENCE because of all the damage.
And because of the Spacestation being in a very aggressive position that exposes them to retaliation like that. Yeah, okay, all right. Got excited for a moment there. That'll be very rare sighting. Back to the Genji for Kev here. Pharah obviously just a little too floaty. Don't really have the full commitment ability that ENCE obviously want to try and play towards. Genji, very reasonable pick. And this is what I talked about having your projectile player being able to switch between these two seamlessly is a boon.
So I also think that it's partly because Sparker is playing the Ashe here. I think if Sparker was playing Cassidy, I think you may have actually seen them play the bar.
That wall is for...
Yeah, to prevent him from going into the fire.
Yeah, but it does nothing to stop this advance through the choke, so Backbone has it drawn out.
Ah, that's fine.
That's fine. Here's another wall. It's not fine. He's extremely unfine, actually. Playing on Hardy fall here, and I think ENCE have just figured this one out. Space Station, we had high hopes for this match. We had high hopes they'd really give us something to chew on here in this series against ENCE, but it looks like the previous king of EMEA remains. ENCE dominant showing in that last map, and Space Station, frankly, just ran out of options against them in this series.
Yeah, it seems like Midtown there, just kind of a last-ditch effort maybe from Space Station, but ENCE just proves to be too strong, especially in that mirror. I think with Kev being able to rotate between the Genji in the Pharah, I think gives them, seems like at least here in this match, a distinct advantage over playing the May.
Absolutely. We can see like these two team stylistic differences work for them on particular maps, but it is SSG that are choosing to go here. They say, we feel like we have a better shot on Midtown than we do on a King's Row, which is, okay, that's obviously a stylistic choice, I'll put it down to, but they struggle with dealing with Pharah initially. They aren't able to switch into it in a way that's meaningful. They have Ashe, they have Bastion, they just can't see Kevster most of the time, so they're taking too much damage from him. Kevster switching to Genji so effortlessly, just like starts throwing shurikens behind the fire truck, forces the wall out from Backbone, which he doesn't really care to sort of, you know, go that way anyway. And then the rest of ENCE come in and roll over Hardy.
I think, if these two teams match up again, I'd love to see a little bit more of the Ashe from SSG. I think Sparker can definitely play it. I think probably has a lot of advantages over the Cassidy. You may end up having Kevster to play a little bit more Genji, which takes a lot of that chunk damage out of the equation.
See over the line in the upper bracket, though, for SSG. It's ENCE advance, of course, to our finals. We're going to check in with the desk now, discuss the implications of this game and also what's to come in that lower bracket.
Thank you so much, Mitch and Matt. Yeah, not the close match that we have hoped for. At least one person is smiling here. Got your Preds right, Void and Kippis.
Yeah, I did.
What a big brain play.
You get to enjoy some Swedish cuisine.
Well, we'll see about that. I think only the worst of all Preds is going to get it. And my first Pred actually really does not count. Just throwing it out there. Well, you had to bring it back up. Thank you. Thank you, production.
There you go.
You're not missing a beat.
You gotta believe in Kevster. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hey, okay,
it gets boring. I'm sorry, chat. It gets boring when I always talk about Kevster, but he was dominant on the Pharah.
He was. No, he was. I mean, ENCE clearly had SSG on download, though. Yeah, Lijiang Tower, a bit of a slip up there. Maybe they got caught off guard, caught by surprise. Maybe they just had a slow start today. Who knows? But ENCE is coming out on top, and quite frankly, as the series went on, started to look rather dominant.
Yeah, it looked dominant. I think SSG has a lot of problems they need to iron out. Their compositions and what maps they're picking just doesn't seem to make sense against what's meta. Kevster's just easily swapping between the Genji and the Pharah, and it doesn't matter what he's playing. He is elite on both of these characters. He knows how to play them. He knows where to play. I mean, look at this guy. Every time, just pressure. It didn't matter what approach that SSG took. He was there and ready for it, putting pressure onto the backline and getting kills. It's so hard to deal with the Kevster.
Yeah, SSG, they were slowly trying to take map control and taking these off angles right, but what ENCE did so well is they recognize where are the weaknesses, where can we push, and who can we actually kill in these scenarios. And so there were multiple times where, Backbone was on an off angle and you pressure in, but sometimes you just go for the backline. Go for the backline of SSG. Yeah. Kevster goes above the train on the Pharah, puts pressure on there with Vastola perhaps, and gets a couple of frags, and suddenly you're a man advantage. And how do you come back from that?
Yeah, and I want to give a big shout out to Sky as well on the Gibraltar with the nades was huge. It was clutch. When Kevster couldn't carry, Sky took over. But yeah, obviously the player of the match is Kevster. You could put this guy in just about any hero in the game, and he's going to put on elite performances.
Yeah, it's pretty filthy. I mean, generally, that ENCE roster, they're firing on all cylinders. Like, it's the front line, it's the back line, it's the middle part too. It's like there's just so much threat that you need to shut down when you're going up against ENCE.
Yeah, I mean, it's so brutal. Like you said, I really wonder, you know, where does SSG go from here? Because, you know, they're trying these kind of like Reaper compositions, but if you're going to come back and win the event, you'll have to deal with someone like ENCE, like, and when Kevster is performing like this, you feel like you really have to shake things up there and do something that's not putting back one on May for most of the time. There were a couple of nice strategies that came out on Lijiang Tower, for example. Not only because it was the hardy Reinhardt, but they did make life difficult, and Sparker has some pop-up moments on the Cassidy, for example. So, really a big question, what does SG do from here?
Yeah, I like the Sim cast look. It doesn't have to be the Reinhardt. I thought highlighted the Maga you were talking about earlier. They pulled it out in Lijiang before. I thought that was something that I could potentially see on the Midtown, but they ended up going default, and I just feel like if you're going to play the May, it has to be on better maps for it. I thought Lijiang was fine. You go into Midtown, you're playing May into Afara, you're going to lose every single time.